Listen closely, because this message is not reaching you by accident. Some of you feel it already. A pressure in the chest, a quiet unrest, a sense that something in your life is shifting beneath the surface. This is the call of the chosen, not chosen by privilege, but chosen by responsibility. Life has been sending you signals, subtle and persistent, but you've been walking past them without understanding their meaning. These warnings rarely look dramatic. Sometimes they come as restlessness you can't explain, a repeated obstacle that returns again and again, or a sudden clarity that vanishes as quickly as it appears. These are signs from a deeper intelligence, the guidance that many ignore until it becomes unavoidable. In my years within the Shaolin tradition, I learned that true mastery is not in the strength of the body, but in the sensitivity of the spirit. The old teachings reveal something profound. Awareness sharpens long before danger arrives. A disciplined mind can feel the storm while the sky still looks clear. A trained heart senses misalignment before life collapses into chaos. This video will show you how that inner radar works. You will learn how intention directs your destiny, how stillness reveals warnings long before they grow louder, and how the energy within your body becomes a guide when your thoughts fail you. You will discover signs you've been missing and how the ancient principles of Shaolin, mindfulness, and inner work can protect you from choices that could lead you away from your true path. If you stay with me until the end, your understanding of these signals will shift. You will walk away able to sense what most people overlook. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. I am Shi Heng Yi. If this message resonates, subscribe and continue walking this path with us. There is a moment in every seeker's life when the mind feels scattered, pulled in many directions, unable to hear the quiet truth beneath the noise. I have seen this countless times among students, and I once lived inside that same confusion myself. This is where the Shaolin teaching of Yi begins. The understanding that intention is not simply taught, it is the direction your inner world chooses to face. In the old monastery, my master would watch us train in silence. He could see, long before we did, when our bodies moved without purpose. Your form is correct, he said once, but your mind is wandering. Without Yi, nothing lands where it must. Those words revealed something vital. Intention is a blade. When it is sharp, it cuts through confusion. When it is dull, it cannot penetrate even the softest obstacle. Most people live with a drifting mind, thoughts running in circles, emotions hijacking the day, attention leaking into worries and distractions. And when this happens, they miss the spiritual signals life tries to send. A warning may appear as doubt before a decision, a sudden heaviness in the chest, a repeated inner whisper. But without intention, these signs pass unnoticed. He trains you to direct awareness deliberately, not as force but as clarity. When your intention is aligned, small insights become bright. Subtle feelings become meaningful. The world within you begins to speak in a language you can finally hear. Think of intention as a spiritual radio. When you twist the dial without focus, all you hear is static, fear, noise, uncertainty. But when you tune it with discipline and attention, the frequency becomes clear. You hear the guidance that was always there. You sense danger before it touches you. You feel the path beneath your feet even when the way seems hidden. This is the power of Yi, the beginning of inner vision. There is a saying in the temple, strength protects the body, but discipline protects the soul. The elders spoke of Onide, the morality of mind, not as rules, but as the inner armor a seeker must forge. Willpower, endurance, perseverance, patience, and courage were not separate virtues. They were threads woven into one unbreakable fabric. Many people believe discipline is about strict routines or harsh training, but in the Shaolin path, discipline is the quiet force that keeps your spirit from collapsing when life begins to test you. It is the anchor that holds you steady when the world around you becomes uncertain. I remember watching young disciples struggle during winter practice, breath shaking in the cold air. Their bodies were strong enough to continue, but it was their minds that wanted to retreat. It was willpower that carried them forward when comfort pulled them back. Life works the same way. Divine warnings rarely arrive when everything is easy. They often push you toward decisions you've avoided. truths you've ignored, and changes you've delayed. These moments feel uncomfortable because they challenge the identity you cling to. Without the firmness of will, you slip back into old patterns and miss the doorway life is opening for you. Discipline sharpens your ability to stay on the path even when the emotional waves rise. Perseverance teaches you to move toward clarity instead of running from discomfort. Patience allows you to hold steady when answers haven't yet revealed themselves. And courage steadies your breath when fear whispers that you are not ready. When these qualities grow within you, you become less reactive and more intentional. You stop abandoning your path at the first sign of resistance. You become capable of receiving and responding to divine warnings without breaking, without retreating, and without losing the direction of your own spirit. In the quiet hours before dawn, the temple grounds felt like another world. No footsteps, no voices, only the sound of wind brushing past the wooden pillars. This was the hour reserved for one purpose, returning to the present. The masters taught that true awareness is not found in thought, but in the space beneath thought. To reach that space, you must learn to sit with yourself. Mindfulness in the Shaolin tradition is not an escape from life. It is the art of meeting life exactly as it is, without drifting into the shadows of memory or the fantasies of expectation. When the mind wanders into the past, it carries regret. When it leaps into the future, it carries fear. But in the present moment, the mind carries only truth. Many of life's warnings arrive in this quiet place. A tightening in the stomach before saying yes to something that doesn't feel right. A sudden heaviness when you're about to repeat an old mistake. A small inner voice urging you to slow down when the world is pushing you to rush. These signals whisper in the present, but most people are too distracted to hear them. The monks practiced a simple method to return to awareness. Anchor yourself to a single point. Sometimes it was the rise and fall of the breath. Sometimes the feeling of the feet touching the ground. Sometimes the heartbeat, steady and soft. When attention rests on the body, the mind begins to settle. The noise fades. The inner landscape becomes clearer. In this stillness, intuition sharpens. You begin to sense what aligns with your path and what pulls you away from it. You start noticing subtle warnings the way a seasoned tracker notices faint footprints in the sand. Mindfulness becomes more than meditation. It becomes a living skill, a constant companion that guides your choices and protects your spirit. There's a story the elders often repeated. Even the strongest bow will break if it is always pulled tight. In the same way, a seeker who lives in constant tension eventually loses connection with the deeper signals life is trying to send. Discipline alone is not mastery. Rest alone is not wisdom. True skill is learning how both forces support one another. In the temple, training was intense. Days filled with forms, breathing drills, conditioning, repetition. Yet between those periods of exertion, there were deliberate moments of stillness, not idleness, but mindful rest. The masters insisted on it. They knew that when the body quiets and the mind softens, the inner world becomes more visible. Many students believed progress came only through pushing harder, but they discovered something surprising. The most important insights arrived in the pauses. People in the outside world often fall into two extremes. Some cling to rigid routines, afraid to slow down because slowing feels like losing momentum. Others drift without structure, pulled by emotion and impulse, never settling long enough to hear anything meaningful. Both extremes drown out guidance. Structure without softness becomes blindness. Softness without structure becomes confusion. Shaolin wisdom teaches the dance between effort and surrender. When discipline shapes your day, your mind grows steady. When rest is honored, your awareness deepens. Together, they create a rhythm that keeps you aligned with your purpose. Divine messages rarely shout. They come in the gaps, the breath between tasks, the silence after exertion, the moment when the mind is open but not empty. In those spaces, clarity rises on its own. You notice what felt wrong earlier. You recognize the direction you've been avoiding. You sense the next step with a quiet certainty. Rest is not the opposite of discipline. It is the meeting point where strength and wisdom finally touch. There was an old courtyard behind the training hall where the mornings felt especially quiet. This was where the monks practiced Qigong, each movement slow, deliberate and filled with intention. To an untrained eye, it looked simple, almost too simple. But those who stayed long enough began to feel what the practice was truly shaping, the invisible currents of life energy moving through the body. Qi, the life force, is not a concept to be believed in or rejected. It is something to be experienced, like warmth from the sun or the pull of gravity. When qi flows freely, the mind becomes clearer, the breath smoother, and the senses sharper. When it stagnates, confusion rises, emotions feel heavy, and intuition becomes clouded. Qigong trains you to refine this energy. With each controlled breath, each steady posture, each soft shift of weight, the internal world becomes more open. At first, you notice the physical sensations, a warmth in the palms, a tingling in the spine, a settling in the belly, but with time, something deeper awakens. The body begins to sense what the mind cannot articulate. As qi strengthens, intuition becomes more precise. You start to feel subtle impressions that guide you, a quiet pull toward a certain path, a sudden contraction when something is wrong, a gentle alertness before a decision that matters. These are not random feelings, they are signals rising through a refined system. Life is full of undercurrents, invisible flows that move beneath the surface of every situation. Most people only react to the obvious waves: conflict, stress, emotion. But when qi is cultivated, you begin to feel the currents before they form waves. You sense changes before they arrive. You recognize spiritual prompts before they turn into consequences. Qi work is not just training energy, it is training perception, the kind that protects, guides, and awakens. There is a lantern that hangs in the old meditation hall. It has burned for many years, cared for by countless students. One master once said, "This flame survives because someone takes responsibility for it every day." That lesson stayed with many of us because it revealed a deeper truth. Nothing in life flourishes unless you take responsibility for your inner flame as well. In Shaolin, this is known as the Shaolin spirit, a path built on self-awareness, discipline, self-responsibility, self-reflection, and ultimately self-mastery. These qualities are not imposed from outside. They arise when you decide to stop waiting for life to change and begin shaping your own direction. Divine warnings work the same way. They are not punishments, and they are not threats. They are invitations, gentle signals asking you to pause, reconsider, or choose differently. But many people respond by blaming fate, circumstances, or the world around them. When you blame, you give away your power. When you take responsibility, you reclaim it. There were moments during training when mistakes were made, not out of lack of skill, but lack of awareness. The masters never scolded. They simply asked, "What did you see? What did you feel?" Reflection was the true correction. Through honest questioning, the path became clear again. Self-reflection is your inner compass. It requires stillness, courage, and humility. It asks you to look beyond excuses and observe the truth of your actions, your habits, your choices. When something feels off, ask yourself, what am I being guided away from? When something feels quietly right, ask, what am I being called toward? When these questions become part of your daily practice, you begin to hear guidance where before you only felt confusion. You move through life with responsibility rather than reaction. And the flame within you burns steady, protected by your own awareness. In the early years of tempo training, many students believed strength came only from hardened muscles and perfected forms. But the masters watched something else entirely. They observed how a student breathed under pressure, how the eyes shifted when fear appeared, how the body reacted when uncertainty crept in. They knew that emotional stability was not just part of the path, it was the foundation beneath everything. Fear and anxiety were never treated as enemies, they were treated as messengers. A trembling hand during practice, a restless night before a test, a sudden tightness before making a choice. Each was a signal pointing towards something unresolved. In the Shaolin tradition, these inner tremors were considered early warnings, not signs of weakness. ignoring them was far more dangerous than feeling them. Many divine messages come wrapped in discomfort, a fear that repeatedly appears before certain people, a heaviness that returns when you think about a specific path, a cycle of anxiety right before repeating an old mistake. These patterns hold intelligence, they reveal where your spirit is misaligned or where your boundaries have been crossed. Emotional mastery does not mean suppressing what you feel. It means learning to sit with your feelings without being consumed by them. Through meditation, the breath slows the storm inside. Through discipline, you remain steady even when emotion rises. Through self-awareness, you recognize the difference between instinct and fear, between intuition and old wounds. When emotions become clearer, so do the warnings behind them. Instead of reacting blindly, you pause. Instead of avoiding discomfort, you study it. You begin to understand what your inner world is trying to protect you from and what it is gently pushing you toward. This ability to face your emotions with calm presence is one of the highest forms of mastery. It allows you to hear the truth beneath fear and respond with clarity rather than panic. Long ago, a young disciple came to the masters burdened with pride and expectation. He wanted recognition, certainty, and control over every step of his journey. The masters guided him to sit beneath the ancient pine trees and watch the wind bend the branches. See how it yields yet endures, they said. True strength is not holding on but knowing when to let go. Shaolin training has its roots deep in Buddhist and Taoist wisdom, where the path of mastery is as much about the mind and spirit as it is about the body. These traditions teach that attachment to identity, to outcomes, to the approval of others, clouds perception and weakens the connection to what is real. When the mind clings, divine warnings are muffled, subtle signals that could redirect a life path unnoticed because the heart is focused elsewhere. Non-attachment is not emptiness, it is clarity. It is the recognition that life flows, that circumstances shift, that even our deepest plans may be rearranged. Divine messages often appear as disruption, a sudden change in relationships, a shift in fortune, an inner nudge to leave what no longer serves you. Resistance creates tension, anxiety, and missed opportunities. Acceptance, however, opens a space of awareness. It does not mean surrendering to weakness, it means observing fully, understanding the situation without judgment, and then acting with intention. Taoist philosophy calls this effortless harmony, a quiet power that arises when the mind aligns with the natural flow rather than fighting it. Buddhist teachings describe it as equanimity, remaining calm amid change, seeing clearly without grasping. The greatest mastery comes when the body, mind, and spirit act in concert, unblocked by fear or desire. When you practice non-attachment and acceptance, divine warnings become easier to hear. You sense what must be released and what must be embraced. You move through life with a steady heart, a clear mind, and a strength that does not need to prove itself. There is a lesson that the masters repeated often: a life without purpose is like a river that never reaches the sea. It flows, it moves, but it carries nothing meaningful. Those who are called chosen are not given privileges or ease. They are entrusted with responsibility. The responsibility to live fully, to act wisely, and to serve beyond themselves. Purpose begins quietly, within the stillness of reflection. It asks, who am I truly? What can I give? Where does my strength matter most? Shaolin training teaches that mastery of the self is only the first step. Without a direction to apply that mastery, strength becomes aimless. But when purpose is embraced, every action, every choice, every moment of discipline gains weight. Life becomes a platform, and your presence can shift not just your own path, but the path of others. Divine warnings often arrive as gentle nudges toward this greater mission. A sense of discomfort, a repeated opportunity, a calling that feels too vast. These are signals guiding you to expand beyond personal desire. They ask you to rise to a level of responsibility that requires courage, clarity, and persistence. Those who ignore them risk stagnation. Those who heed them grow into vessels capable of carrying more than they ever imagined. Self-mastery is not an exercise in ego. It is the cultivation of readiness. Readiness to bear more, to contribute more, to serve with integrity. The body, mind, and spirit are trained not for personal gain alone, but to be tools for something larger. Strength without purpose fades, but strength applied in service endures. When the inner work aligns with outer action, life becomes meaningful in ways the world cannot measure. Every decision, every choice, every moment of awareness carries significance. This is the path of those who are truly chosen, not to receive but to give, not to accumulate but to serve, not to rest but to act with intention that touches the world. In the quiet of the temple, the masters often reminded us, mastery is not a moment to achieve, but a life to cultivate. Each day offers a chance to practice, each breath a chance to return. The Shaolin path is long, and its rhythm is woven into both structure and freedom. Discipline trains the body, ritual trains the mind, and reflection trains the spirit. Together, they create a harmony that shapes the entire life. The 12-month self-mastery program in the tradition is designed not to rush growth, but to layer it. Habit is built slowly, form by form. Theory is studied yet applied. Movement and meditation blend until each becomes second nature. Reflection is the thread that binds it all, allowing the lessons of each day to settle deeply into the soul. Mastery, in this sense, is not learned in a single breakthrough. It unfolds quietly, steadily, over time. Divine warnings are much the same. They do not come only once, and rarely do they arrive in obvious form. They appear in cycles, repeated patterns, and subtle reminders. Ignoring them once may pass unnoticed. Ignoring them consistently brings consequence. Continuous practice of attention, discipline, and presence trains the mind to notice these signals, to interpret them, and to act wisely. Ritual anchors you. A few conscious breaths, a moment of stillness, or a reflection on the day brings clarity. Yet the practice is not rigid. The mind that clings too tightly to ritual misses the living flow of life. Integration means moving fluidly between ritual and freedom, structure and spontaneity, formality and natural being. When these practices become part of your daily existence, mastery is no longer something you perform. It becomes who you are. Awareness, discipline, and inner alignment guide each step effortlessly. In this way, the body, mind, and spirit remain open to divine signals, prepared for challenges, and attuned to the subtle currents of life, day after day, moment by moment. There comes a point when the quiet nudges of life grow louder, yet many still turn away. A fleeting discomfort, a repeated pattern, a restless thought, these are not coincidences. Ignored, they accumulate, forming barriers unseen. Stagnation creeps in, small decisions erode vitality, and the path you were meant to walk becomes obscured. Life begins to feel heavy, and even the strongest effort cannot move you forward. In the Shaolin tradition, such signals are understood as guidance, not punishment. Every unease carries information, every inner warning a lesson. To ignore these signs is to drift without a rudder, to risk self-sabotage or a life misaligned with purpose. The spirit grows restless, the mind clouded, and opportunities slip quietly past, unnoticed, until regret arrives. Shaolin teachings offer a way to respond rather than react. Discipline, mindfulness, intention, and Qi refinement all sharpen perception. They allow you to hear the subtleties that others dismiss, the intuitive hints, the inner hesitations, the energetic shifts that indicate danger or direction. But perception alone is not enough. Mastery is measured in action, acting with courage, choosing with clarity, moving when the warning is understood. Those who feel chosen are not marked by luck. They are marked by responsibility. The soul has sent its signals, nudging toward growth, alignment, and purpose. Heeding them requires honesty, patience, and the willingness to face discomfort. It requires tuning the mind, steadying the heart, and opening the senses to truths that cannot be seen with the eyes alone. This is the call to awaken, to pay attention, to move consciously. The signs are never random. They arrive for a reason, to guide, to protect, and to illuminate the path that is uniquely yours. The question is simple. Will you listen, or will you continue to drift? There is a saying in the temple, small actions repeated daily shape the spirit more than grand gestures ever could. True mastery begins not with perfection, but with presence. Each morning, before the world pulls attention outward, take a moment to return inward. Even a few conscious breaths, a quiet reflection on your intention, or a brief 5-minute Qigong session can begin to shift the inner landscape. These are not rituals for show. They are anchors for your mind and guides for your energy. Journaling is another tool of the seeker. In the stillness after practice, ask yourself, what message am I ignoring? Where is my focus leaking? These questions do not demand immediate answers. They are invitations to observe, to notice patterns, and to gently return attention to what matters. Writing reveals the subtle currents of thought and feeling that otherwise slip past unnoticed. Over time, the daily record becomes a map of growth, awareness, and alignment. Self-mastery is not about never failing or never feeling fear, doubt, or distraction. It is about cultivating the capacity to pause, to observe, and to respond consciously. It is about creating small moments where the mind and body are aligned with the deeper self so that guidance can be heard and acted upon. The simplicity of these practices is deceptive. A short breath, a moment of reflection, a mindful movement, each carries the potential to awaken perception, to strengthen discipline, and to refine intuition. Over time, these small acts compound, forming habits that become identity, shaping the way you engage with life itself. Begin today. Commit to one simple ritual. Return to presence. Notice the whispers of your inner guidance. Each conscious step is a thread in the tapestry of mastery, weaving alignment, clarity, and resilience into every moment of your life. We have journeyed through the quiet power of Shaolin wisdom, learning how discipline, Qi cultivation, and the focused mind can awaken our ability to sense divine warnings. We explored mindfulness, emotional mastery, intention, and self-reflection, seeing how each practice sharpens awareness and strengthens the spirit. Being chosen is not a burden, it is an invitation, an opportunity to live with purpose, to respond to guidance, and to grow into the fullest version of yourself. But this opportunity requires training. The body must be steady, the mind alert, and the spirit attentive. Only then can subtle signals be heard, understood, and acted upon with clarity. Take these lessons into your daily life. Begin with small rituals, a few mindful breaths, a moment of reflection, or a brief Qi practice. Notice the messages that arise in stillness. Ask yourself the questions you have avoided. Allow self-mastery to grow, not through perfection, but through consistent presence and attention. Awaken, master yourself. Heed the call before it's too late. Each day offers a chance to align with your purpose, to refine your awareness, and to move with quiet power through life. If this message resonated, join our journey at Shaolin Soulfire. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and walk the path of awareness, discipline, and inner mastery with us. Let your life become a living practice of clarity, courage, and presence.